Hi. In the second album actually the third album by the Byrds, we want to talk about the great song called 8 Miles High. And here we've got an account by Roger McGuinn himself. It's on the third album, Fifth Dimension, released on July 1966. Now Roger McGuinn claims that we were on tour, the Byrds, we were on tour in the United States. We were always on tour. We were in the Midwest and we stopped at some town to visit a friend of David Crosby. David's friend had copies of John Coltrane's Africa Brass and Impressions, which had a track Indie on it. It had a cassette recorder and recorded both Coltrane's albums on one side on a blank cassette and some Ravi Shankar on the other side. You know Ravi Shankar, the guy with the sitar? Right, we strapped the cassette deck to the Fender amp on the bus and listened to both sides of that tape over and over again on that tour. This went on for a month, and we were so steeped in this music that by the time we got back to LA, Los Angeles, it all just spilled out, almost like we'd been brainwashed by Coltrane and Mr. Ravi Shankar. 8 Miles High is out there. It is spatial. I was trying to emulate Coltrane's saxophone with my Rickenbacker guitar. Rickenbacker guitar, you know, the Byrds were actually copying George Harrison at the time. I've got a lot of what Coltrane was doing on for India, which was to capture the elephants in India with his whales, and there was that tabla beat. He was trying to incorporate Indian music into jazz music. And we were trying to incorporate his attempts to do that into a rock and roll song, and so there's a lot of that going on. Now, Gene Clark came up with a lot of it, but he didn't write the whole song. The airplane thing was my idea. I was always into planes and into spaceships. Gene and I, Clark, were talking about the trip we were taking when we'd gone to England on tour. The fact that the altitude was 37,000 feet, which is 7 miles high. He didn't like the number 7 because the Beatles had 8 days a week out, and he thought that was much cooler. So we changed it to 8 miles high. Even though commercial airlines didn't go to 42,000 feet. So they do now, some of them. When radio stations heard that, they thought, wait a minute, that can't be talking about planes because they don't fly that high. They must be talking about some kind of other high, as in high. Drugs, you know, high. So then the Gaver report came out with a tip sheet for radio, and they banned the record because they thought it was some flagrant drug ad. Some of the band members still like to pretend that it is. David Crosby would always say, yeah, it's about drugs, man, but it is not, claims Roger McGuinn. It is about touring the UK, the British press, the cars, the girls and the crowds, the weather, the street signs at the side of the buildings which weren't used and could be fired. It's about a cultural shock. So we're talking about 8 Miles High, the classic 1966 track on the Fifth Dimension album, third classic album by the Byrds. So that's the account that our good friend Roger McGuinn gives about this classic psychedelic track, 8 Miles High. 8 miles high, and when you touch down, you'll find that it's stranger than known. Signs on the street that say where you're going are somewhere just being their own. Nowhere is the warmth to be found amongst those afraid of losing their ground. Rain grey town known for its sound, in places small faces unbound. Round the squares huddle in storms, some laughing, just some shapeless forms. Sidewalk scenes of black limousines, some living, some standing alone. Well, this is the basic track. These are the basic lyrics for the classic song 8 Miles High. A song that could easily be a drug song, a song that could easily be simply a song about going on tour in the UK. Byrds, 1966, Golden Piece.